I feel as if to be continued is going to be a problem.
Honey badgers are the most disrespectful force in nature, and that's putting them over orcas. Because at least when an orca shot puts a seal, you can argue it's just testing a new hunting strategy. But honey badgers will look for negativity in situations where they have nothing to gain. Why would a honey badger test an oryx 10 times its size, get launched only to immediately do it again? Because honey badgers come into the world deciding they don't want peace, they want problems. They don't want compromise, they seek conflict. If orcas are homicidal sea Oreos, then honey badgers are double stuffed with audacity. If I ever make a list of the top 5 animals with black Air Force energy, honey badgers would be a first.
Hippos are assholes.
But like any
hippos, the animal kingdom's taint. That cute little adorable face is a damn hell-ass lie that'll get you killed. Correction, we'll get somebody stupid killed. Your boy.
What is wrong with you?
I'm not proud of myself.
Kid that acts out in school, to really understand just what makes a honey badger such a one-man hate campaign, you gotta look at its family. When you talk about mammalian carnivores, you can really simplify it into 2 classes, Team Cat and Team Dog.
Team Dog.
Team Cat would be feliform, which translates to cat-like carnivores, which would obviously include wild cats, but also cats that aren't really cats like hyenas, mongooses like the meerkat,
I didn't know that.
and a bunch of other animals you've probably never heard of.
Meerkat is a...
Get there faster!
On the other side is
I didn't think it was actually a cat.
Dog-like carnivores. This includes dogs, wild, unhinged dogs, dogs on steroids, smaller but more street-smart dogs, and a special group of water dogs that decided they had enough of the nonsense and disrespect of the dirt world and were going to take their chances out in the ocean. Results have been varied. But you also have another family known as the Mustelidae squad, and they were kind of in a weird spot. They weren't the biggest, definitely weren't the fastest, not the smartest, and for the most part they're solitary, meaning they rarely have a numbers advantage. So their only real option was to overcompensate the way anyone that overmatched would.
Fight everybody.
With violence and borderline crackhead courage. If mustelids like honey
get a seagull.
Groups,
think how hard it would be to catch a seagull.
They probably wouldn't need the personality of a power tool to survive. Because gang violence may be unethical, but in the wild, it's a way of life. It's the reason African wild dogs are one of the most efficient groups at canceling life subscriptions.
Wow, look at their order.
Because team play is high-key underrated. Ants are probably the best eusocial insects in the game, and it's almost scary how well they work together. Led by a queen who can almost check in at the same weight class as a mouse, ant society is built on a hierarchy where everyone has a job. Female ants are workers who can have tasks such as cleaning the eggs and
I don't need to see a mouse.
Queen ant's job is to supply the census with new bodies by constantly spawning eggs, and some species can spit out over 800 in one day. Male ants have one job, and it's to supply the queen with baby batter and then exit the census once they
baby batter. I don't want to hear that again. Appreciate it.
Free will. They're basically walking ejac packets. And if you ever wanted to know just what ant society is like, the Ants Underground Kingdom is a simulation strategy game with millions of players already online. You can hatch and develop your own ant army, including rare ones like the banshee ant, which is based on an actual insect that isn't really an ant, it's a type of wasp. You can also unlock new buildings like toxic fungi, gorgeous pearl, special nests, and more. Now here's the fun part. The ant armada includes guardian ants, shooter ants, and carrier ants. Plus you can call on reinforcements in the form of scorpions and spiders.
Cracking.
It's like Game of Thrones, but with ants.
That's weird.
PvE wise, you can run fades with jumping spiders, giant mantises, and more. You can choose what alliances you want to join and then make friends with players from all around the world. And mercilessly backstab them at every turn because there's no church in the wild and hell is not a consequence. Make sure you download the Ants Underground Kingdom and use the redemption code to cash in on a bunch of benefits the game is offering just in time for the holidays to make sure your army is the strongest one. But if you're a honey badger, the strongest army is always an army of one. Honey badgers could be the mascots of Miralax because they don't ever give them, they just take them. And when I say it runs in a family, you can tell the honey badger took something from all of their cousins and made it theirs. We're gonna get to those cousins, don't worry. But first we gotta talk about what makes honey badgers such a middle finger to the natural order. First is the fact that they're not indestructible, but damn it, they're pretty close. Honey badger skin is tough and resilient, able to withstand bee stings, snake bites, and brutal maulings that would certainly be a game over. You could even come at a honey badger with a machete, and it could still probably Eurostep any serious. There's even reports of these steroid guns taking down African crested porcupines. The same ones that have about 30,000 good reasons why testing them could be really bad for your health. In really rare occasions, porcupines have crippled the top tier lions so badly that hunting humans was their only option. In 1965, after a lion nicknamed the Man-Eater of Darajani was finally put out of commission, it was discovered that it had been gored by a blade beaver, with one of the quills being lodged in its fractured teeth and another one nearly piercing its brain. Maimed and out of options, a starving lion put at least one Kenyan on a t-shirt.
Speaking of man-eating lions that will eat your face, there's a movie called Ghost in the Darkness about two lions who stalk people in Africa. Now, lions don't stalk people. They're generally afraid. These two lions were stalking people. Simba and Nala do not give a fuck.
That's the kind of carnage porcupines are capable of, yet honey badgers can often survive
How
an
crazy
encounter
is
with what
that?
consider tough skin. The same reason they can square up with snakes and then live to try again.
That
Honey
porcupine
badgers
playing
are
the
predators
long
that turn
game.
deadly serpents like the puff adder and even the black mamba into a purse. Common misconception though is that honey badgers are immune to snake venom. They're not immune, they're much more resistant than other animals, but enough penetrating bites can flatline even a honey badger.
Thick fur.
But usually if a honey badger is wounded by a venomous snake, it'll just pass out in an almost coma-like state, only to get up a few hours later and walk off like a Sunday morning hangover. Another fact is that not only is honey badger skin tough, it's incredibly loose.
That's my
especially around
animal
the neck. So if one's ever
superhero
being mauled by a big cat,
power.
this walking cigar can turn around while being attacked and deliver smoke directly to the
He was
face.
thrown in a
Honey badgers
vat.
are furry duracells, and anything short of a round directly to the skull isn't guaranteed to kill them. This durability is why
with honey
honey badgers
badgers
are
in
either
it.
brave enough or stupid enough to blatantly steal from top
reasons.
predators, and they usually target
Now
them.
he's honey badger
Unlike
man.
lions and hyenas, leopards are solitary assassins that hide their prizes high up in the branches where they can't get their pockets picked. The food may be safe from lions, but they're not safe from a malicious
Giraffe
quality
in
symbol
a
with
tree?
nothing to lose. Honey badgers will risk it all by attempting to steal from a leopard by climbing a tree once it steps away from its meal. If the
Leopards
honey badger
ain't
is carnivorous,
nothing
it'll
to
allow-
f with.
Cousin the wolverine. The wolverine is a
Wolverine.
honey badger on PEDs, built for the
On
freezing tundra of the
PEDs.
north. And even though they're roughly in the same weight class as a medium-sized dog, tankier predators like bears and mountain lions will occasionally pay food taxes to this walking vibe check.
Yeah, they are bigger.
But the
and
thing with
fatter.
wolverines is, they have the strength and speed to catch their own
Right.
bodies. Wolverines will stalk a potential victim for hours, even days, and there have been reports of wolverines posting up in trees just so they can wait for the right moment to pounce.
Leave me
Why waste
alone,
more
man.
calories doing that when you can just pickpocket a grizzly or clutch a 2v1 versus wolves. And just like the honey badger, wolverines will attack anything with a pulse. Difference is they have the tools to actually stop it. One
Except for I
wolverine put a
kicked
polar
that
bear in a headline after
face.
clamping its vice-grip jaws around the struggling bear's throat until it's suffocated. There have even been reports of a wolverine dropping a female moose by ripping at its shoulder blades until it eventually tapped
Wow,
out.
that's
In
amazing.
comparison, honey badgers have allegedly KO'd units like the Cape buffalo and water buck. Except the honey badger's methods are different. Wolverines are little man syndrome but with bear trap jaws. Even though they might
Watch
not have
balls,
superhuman
Captain!
power-
I just can't do it, Captain. I do it have the power.
powers, they do have rotated teeth. Wolverines are equipped with upper molars rotated
Too late for me. Go on without me. Protect your balls, Johnson.
90 degrees inward, meaning they can easily eat a grizzly bear's leftovers even if it's half frozen. That dental plan is why a wolverine will eat every part of an animal right down to the bones.
Oh my
Honey badgers
God.
don't have nearly that
I
kind
didn't know
of
that.
but these prison-striped weasels do pack a nasty
Oh
bite
my
and they've been
God.
seen tearing into tortoises. Wolverines have one more secret, and it's that they smell really, really foul. Not only will they use the power of liquid booty as a threat, they'll spray the scent over any food they find to make sure no one else touches it. Which is why the wolverine is also nicknamed the skunk.
That's gross.
Honey badgers also weaponize their south side. When threatened or just annoyed, the honey badger will reverse its
Hello,
anus
baby.
inside out and release a
Have
liquid
you
so
seen
vile
my
it can
anus?
suffocate
Just call me Aiden.
anything near it. The same function.
Yes, I love
Otters
me
are
some
considered
otters, except for the
most
river otters,
intelligent
little
of all
bastards.
mustelids, and they're a part of the
Those
group of animals
motherfuckers
that
ain't
are
nothing
able
to play with.
create and use tools. This one's using a vending machine. In fact, they're so
Ah,
smart
look
that
at
in the
that face.
60s, the CIA allegedly tried to weaponize them. I
course
actually
they
made a
did.
video on this, and
They also try to weaponize
on my TikTok, so definitely
cats.
go check that out. They're also an
What could go
anomaly in
wrong
that
with
they're one of the rare
weaponizing
social
cats? They
muscles,
follow
which should give
directions
you mixed
very
feelings.
well.
Because yes, sea otters will
You know what other animal the government tried to weaponize, boys and girls? Smallpox! No! Bats. That's right, they strap bombs, little bitty bombs, to their backs. Again, bats don't follow directions. You know, people get paid a lot of money to be stupid. I can do that for free.
hold hands while sleeping so they don't float away. Despite my lack of emotion, I find that adorable. But otters, especially river otters, will jump anything that enters their territory, from caiman to jaguars to idiots with iPhones. If you want your idea of otters to be completely slaughtered in 10 seconds, Google otter and attack and count how many articles you get. A pack of 20 nearly took a man off the Singapore census permanently. A group of rogue otters drowned a woman's beloved dog as she could only watch.
Wow.
Once upon a time, a monkey wandered into the otter hood of the Bronx
I've seen
Zoo,
this.
and the outnumbered monkey paid the toll for his transgressions with his soul. That's really only scratching the surface. I already have an entire video dedicated to the carnage society lets otters get away with, but one fact should really hammer the point home. Sea otters have a violent mating ritual that involves biting his partner's nose pad so hard that he can tear it off while occasionally holding her head underwater. That is not the disturbing part, because frustrated male otters that couldn't find a mate will resort to taking their lack of options out on baby seals. Something they'll continue to do for up to a week even after the seal's soul has already evacuated. I mean that in the worst possible way. So in a weird twist, out of these three, otters might have the lowest morality, but to compensate they have the highest intelligence. Don't think honey badgers are just some crayon eaters, they're incredibly smart too. But like the kind of smart that would make them high-class criminals. In an experiment, a honey badger couldn't reach a box of food that was hanging from a branch of a tree. But what would have been a dead end for most animals was only a challenge for him. After a few seconds to carefully weigh his options, the honey badger proceeded to push his crate closer to the hanging branch, to the point where he could stand on it to claim his prize. It might not seem like much, but being able to figure this out automatically puts honey badgers in the highest percentile when it comes to animal intelligence.
Hell yeah,
but
wow.
The best example would
your
be
dog does not do
Stoffel.
that. You know what else is probably smarter than your dog and more than likely smarter than your 6-year-old?
Word? No disrespect.
1. A crow remembers. Crow remembers if you treated them bad or treated them good. So if you decided to throw a rock in their face when they're 2 years ago, guess what? That bastard remembers you. Will come on your car. Or worse. Then he will tell his friends. You know what they'll do? They'll on your car. Dude! Water displacement. Now your 6-year-old doesn't know what that is. He just get in the tub and is like, why does this keep overflowing every damn time, mama? Stop your goddamn cussing. Where you get that from?
You alright? I learned it by watching you.
And so on. Meanwhile, crows, they know it. Welcome to my inception. This is a crow. This crow is using water displacement in order to get water. He's thirsty. Too low for him to drink. What does he do? Puts rocks in there. Raises the water level up. Now he's not thirsty. They'll do the same thing for food. Smarter than a 6-year-old.
Stoffel was
Unless you train it, and then
he would find some of the most creative ways to end his bondage. In one of his many escapes, Stoffel noticed a broom that had been left near him, dragged it over to one of the corners of his enclosure, leaned it against the wall, and then used it to emancipate himself. They tested his skills with a gate, and Stoffel the Black Air Force managed to undo the latches of the lock. They then put him in a cell surrounded by cement walls. Take a wild guess what this little weasel did. Stoffel dug up a bunch of rocks, and when he had enough, he piled them in a corner and Andy Dufresne'd himself. One night, his caretaker awoke to a burglar in his home at 1 a.m. You know where I'm going with this. Stoffel escaped again, only this time he broke into the farmer's house and even tried to get into his bedroom. And you want to know the most disrespectful part of it all? Stoffel was hand-raised by humans at a young age and imprinted on them. Meaning Stoffel had no intention of actually escaping. Nah, he was just doing it for the sport and for all the memes.
That's funny.
You know that because
how you doing, Doc?
And returned back to his enclosure just so he could figure out
next
another way
time.
His caretaker's
do better.
Breaking into the farmer's house past midnight was just grade A trolling. And of course, it would be criminal to not mention that time Stoffel escaped his enclosure and entered the lion's den where he was nearly brutally mauled to death. After he recovered, the first thing Stoffel did fresh out was try to find a way back to the lions to settle the score. Stoffel would also regularly break into the lodge kitchen where he would harass staff and help himself to any food he could find. They eventually gave him a lady badger thinking that would help him calm down. What they really did was introduce the Bonnie to his Clyde as they would now try to escape together.
Right.
For their size, honey badgers have relatively large brains and they make it everyone's problem.
Like Caesar.
He makes them a menace to society, and for that you have to look at its third cousin, the stoat. The stoat is one of the smallest of all muscles, yet they regularly put prey 10 times their size out of commission. They do this by relentlessly chasing their prey, which are usually rabbits, until the prey eventually drops to exhaustion. Only then will the stoat deliver a devastating bite to the back of the skull. And once a stoat locks in on its target, there isn't a force in nature that can stop it. The stoat is so hyper-fixated that it'll even ignore rabbits that might
rabbits don't really have much of
a
a defense.
Its original target. That crackhead determination is not foreign to the honey badger. The only way a honey badger can fend off leopards, hyenas, and even the occasional lion is by constantly squirming, hissing, and biting until the attacker eventually decides it's not worth the calories. Even if they eventually do go out of commission, you can be sure the honey badger did not go quietly. The badger's stubborn nature is probably best summed up when you see what they do for honey. Honey badgers love breaking into beehives to eat energy-rich honeycombs. Unfortunately, that often means getting a face full of African bees, which are more aggressive and more nasty than their European cousins. But these honey weasels will continue to eat even while being actively
Killer
swarmed
bees.
and attacked by bees. And even though they're resistant, they're not 100% immune to bee stings. Honey badgers have been known to keep raiding the same beehive for honey until they eventually get stung to death. But honey badgers don't care. They live life balls first with no fear of consequences.
That sounds stupid. Now you went from very smart to stupid.
6 young lionesses and still managed to survive. At one point, the honey badger found itself in the jaws of death, only to use its loose skin to turn around and bite the lion back. This leopard tried harassing a young baby badger, only to end up cosplaying as a cheetah once Mama Badger inserted herself into the conversation. Speaking of cheetahs, honey badgers have such a reputation that it's widely believed that cheetah cubs evolved to mimic their coloring to avoid confrontation with predators. A whole predatory cat, and evolution forced them to impersonate an African bush weasel just to get more respect. Hell for cheetahs, but another notch on a honey badger's chastity belt. I say chastity because they don't give a f***. With the strength and durability of a wolverine, the intelligence and morale deficit of an otter, the pure coke-fueled willpower of the stoat, the honey badger's the only thing alive that can make a bowl cut intimidating. And that's gonna do it for this video, which was